Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the really powerful story of a man whose true worth was, well, invisible to pretty much everyone, but it shone like a beacon in the eyes of a prophet. It's a story that's going to challenge how we see people and how we see value itself.
So, we're actually going to do something a little different here. We're not going to start at the beginning of his life. No, we're going to jump straight to the end. So picture this, a battlefield. The fighting is over. The dust is starting to settle after a victory, and the army is trying to figure out who's here and who's not.
So the Prophet Muhammad, he turns to his companions and asks a really simple but crucial question. It's basically a head count, right? Just a routine check to account for the living and, of course, to honor those who had fallen in battle.
And so, one by one, the different tribe leaders start reporting back. And the news is good. Aside from a few who they already knew had been martyred, it seems like everyone else made it. You can just imagine this wave of relief washing over the camp. The ranks look complete. Everyone's here.
But then, the Prophet's voice cuts right through all that relief. His words just hang in the air, and suddenly there's this huge mystery. Who was this man, Julaybib? I mean, think about it. He's so important that the commander of the entire army is personally asking for him by name, but he was seemingly forgotten by literally everyone else. How does that happen?
Okay, so to answer that question, we've got to rewind. We need to go back and understand who this man was. This man that society had, for all intents and purposes, completely written off.
I mean, the sheer weight of the disadvantages stacked against this one man was just immense. Okay, let's just list them out. Julaybib had no tribe to protect him. He had no family to claim him, no wealth, no home. On top of that, he's described as having physical deformations and being extremely short. So of course he was bullied. He was facing the harsh realities of racism, tribalism, and classism all at once. This was a man living on the absolute fringes of society.
And get this, even his name wasn't really his own. We actually don't know his real first or last name. Julaybib was a nickname, and what it means is kind of debated. Some scholars say it refers to a small cloth, maybe because he was always wrapped up to protect himself. Others suggest a nicer meaning, like a warm embrace. But here's the crucial part. We know for a fact it wasn't a bad or derogatory name. Why? Because the Prophet would have changed it if it was, but he didn't. He let it stand.
So, while the rest of the world looked at Julaybib and saw only his outward appearance, basically a long list of what they considered flaws, the Prophet saw something completely different. He saw what really mattered. He saw the purity of Julaybib's heart.
And look, this wasn't just some quiet, private affection. No way, the Prophet actively championed him. He would literally bring Julaybib to the front of gatherings, making sure he was seen, making sure he was included. This was an intentional effort to build up his place and status in a community that had always just ignored him. He was showing everyone that this man's value was immense.
So, the Prophet's advocacy for Julaybib, well, it was about to lead to one of the most dramatic social tests that you can imagine for the entire community. This was a moment that was going to challenge everybody's deepest prejudices, head on.
Okay, just try to picture this scene. The Prophet of God himself shows up at the home of a really respected, well-known family. I mean, their hearts must have been pounding. It was a common hope back then that maybe, just maybe, he was there to ask for their daughter's hand in marriage. Can you imagine the honor? But he wasn't there for himself. He was there to propose on behalf of the city's biggest outcast, Julaybib. The shock must have been unbelievable.
Well, the parents' reaction was exactly what you might expect. It was immediate, it was visceral. The shock just turned straight into outrage. The mother literally screamed, "I swear by Allah, we will not marry our daughter to Julaybib." For them, this was a massive social insult. But in another room, their daughter heard all the commotion. And her reaction? Well, it was about to change everything.
She comes out and asks her parents this incredibly profound question. Are you going to turn away the messenger of Allah? Just think about that. Her faith was just absolute. She got it. She understood this simple, powerful truth. If the Prophet is proposing this, there has to be a wisdom in it that goes way beyond social status. And that line, "He would not let me go to waste," wow, that just shows this complete and total trust that whatever he was choosing was for her ultimate good.
And the Prophet, he was so moved by her incredible faith that he made a special prayer for her, a dua. He asked God to just pour goodness upon her abundantly, and not to make her life one of difficulty. It was a direct response to her trust, you see.
Because she believed he wouldn't let her go to waste, he prayed that her entire life would become a living testament to that very blessing. All right, so now let's go back to where we started. We're on the battlefield again. The prophet has just declared, "But I am missing Julaybib," and now the search is on.
So the companions, they start searching, and they find him. But what they find around him is just astonishing. There he is martyred, and he's surrounded by 7 enemy soldiers that he himself had slain before he fell. 7 of them.
And this moment just perfectly illustrates his true character. I mean, think about the contrast here. This was the same man who, in his day-to-day life, often avoided the company of other men because their harshness, their bullying, it was just too much for him to bear. And yet here, on the battlefield, he showed the courage of a lion. It's just a powerful testament to the incredible strength that was hidden away from the world's judgmental eyes.
So the prophet goes over and kneels beside his body. And as he's looking at this man who had no tribe to claim him, he says maybe the most powerful words imaginable. He says, "This one is from me, and I am from him." And he doesn't just say it once, he repeats it 3 times. With those words, he just completely erased all the lines of tribe and status and appearance. He claimed Julaybib as his own family in the most profound way possible. And the honor didn't even stop there. Julaybib was so small, we're told, that the prophet was able to just scoop him up and hold his body in his own arms. He then dug the grave himself and buried Julaybib with his own 2 hands. I mean, this was the ultimate, final, public declaration of Julaybib's high station with God and with his messenger. It was an unparalleled honor. But you know, the story doesn't actually end with Julaybib's death. Not at all. It lives on through the incredible legacy of his righteous wife and the fulfillment of that very special prayer. Remember that prayer the prophet made for her? "Oh Allah, pour good upon her abundantly." Well, it was answered, big time. After Julaybib's martyrdom, his widow was blessed with incredible wealth, and she became known as one of the most generous, most charitable women in the entire city. Her life literally became a living sign of the blessings that come when you trust in a wisdom that's so much greater than just societal norms.
When you boil it all down, this entire story really leads us to one single question. Julaybib was a nobody to the world, right? But he was known by God and by his messenger. And his life teaches us this profound lesson about where real value, real honor, and real recognition, where they're actually found.
And so that leaves us with a final and maybe a pretty challenging thought for today. Who are the Julaybibs that are around us right now? You know, the people we might overlook or dismiss or judge just based on what we see on the outside, but who are actually so elevated in God's sight? See, this story isn't just a piece of history. It's a mirror, and it's asking us to take a second look.